everybody, it's Catherine from Jayne Catherine on Books. I'm still here. I'm still here. It's 23rd, 24th, 23rd. See, I've got my prompter back. It's 23rd of June and yeah, we heard yesterday that lockdown for us that are shielding will be paused on the 1st the last day of July. So the 1st of August we can start doing more things like the rest of the population are, they're not just doing what they want and life back as normal, but they've decided that the risks have lowered considerably for the shielded. So woo, I'll have to work out how many days we're being sat here now. It's certainly 30, we're going on for 14 weeks, me and David. I can't believe it. Can't believe we're still sane. Still sat here. Anyway, so you'd have thought I'd have read thousands of books in this 3 months with my love of books, but I'm only just getting my mojo back for reading, to be honest. I couldn't read as much in the beginning. But yeah, it's coming back nicely this month with Book Buddy-a-thon, and we'll come to that at the end of the month. So I thought I'd just come with a couple of recent reads, two very, very different books. So first we have The Ones That Disappeared by Zana Fraillon, and one I've just read it was on my TBR for June, The Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald. So, from one extreme to the other. We'll go to The Ones That Disappeared. So, for those of you that's been with me a while, you'll know that I do like the author Zana Fraillon. She's very thought-provoking in her writing and raises subjects about refugees and difficult situations around the world. Now, her other book that I absolutely loved was The Bone Sparrow. And I sort of featured that a few times on my channel. So that's the other one I've got of hers. But The One That Disappeared. Now, this is featuring Ezra. So there's a little girl called Ezra. She's about 12, I think, and her younger brother. What's her younger brother called? He's got an unusual name. Miran. And we start off and she sort of says, I am Ezra Merks. They do not know me. They do not know I can wait. They do not know that one day I will be free. But the tattoo on Ezra's arm says she belongs to the snakeskins. So Ezra is a group of children that are refugees that have landed on the sure this is based in the UK, this one, because the last one was in Australia. I might be wrong. I'm not 100% sure if it says, but anyway, they land in safe shores, and this is highlighting how some of these children are sold by the so-called I don't know, the enablers, I don't know what to call them, the people that have smuggled them over, the smugglers. Often they don't get to a place of safety, and this is highlighting that issue. So although they think they've arrived in a place of safety, they are sold to groups, to traffickers. Thank you, Mr. Prompter David. People keep asking for him to show his face, but I'm working on it. Yes, traffickers, and this is highlighting that Ezra and her brother are a group of children that have been sold to this gang called the Snakeskins, and basically they are a drug gang, and they are put in like confinement really in the basement of this big old house where they grow stuff. They grow illegal substances, shall we say, and it's their job day in, day out to keep them watered and healthy, these illegal plants. And so they've been sold into slavery, really. So the poor things have gone from being refugees and all that involves to be sold on. And, it happens everywhere. I have spoken to social workers that have been dealing, you know, one day a group of refugee children arrive and they're charged with sorting them out, and the next day they've totally disappeared, not to be traced. So it happens all over the world. It is a very big problem. So it is highlighting that, but don't sort of be put off like by that, because there's a lot of heartwarming moments in this. So it's no secret to let on, I suppose, that they managed to escape. The escape from, they're still branded, they've still got the tattoos on their arms, which is very much reminiscent of the World War II, when you know, when people used to be branded in the concentration camps. And they managed to escape, and of course they're on the run and they're living rough, and they meet another young lad, and a really lovely friendship ensues between all of them. So it's their story of survival, really, of being homeless, not having any adults to look after them, although significantly better than the adults that were looking after them or weren't looking after them. They were using and abusing them. And it's very heartwarming story. Look at how they managed to survive. And also I think it shows how resilient children can be. And, you know, in the face of adversity, children are quite resilient, and it's surprising how matter of fact they are about things. You know, even like the current situation with the pandemic, you know, the children have been quite resilient throughout all this. So it's just their story. They're going to try and rescue somebody that they find out has been hospitalised out of their little group, and it's how they manage to find the way to the hospital and you know, to try and help. There's a little bit of magical realism in here as well. There's sort of a magical element involved in this rescue plan, and I think for me, I wasn't quite sure if that worked or not in this particular genre. Now, so I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. It was quite different from The Bone Sparrow. There were emotional moments in here, but I wasn't quite sure the magical realism element worked. Just my personal opinion. Now, whether that was put in to lighten it, you know, because obviously a very heavy subject, so whether that was, you know, purposely put there, because you know, you can imagine that people that are in awful situations, the daydream, we all do that, we all daydream about better things sometimes and magical things, and whether there is an element of that in here to sort of lighten the mood a little bit from what is essentially a tragedy, really, that these children are sold, I mean, to these drug gangs, and I mean even worse, you know, they are sold to paedophiles in some countries. So yeah. And especially at the moment where, you know, it's just another way of highlighting child slavery, really. And I know that's a very hot topic at the moment with everything that's happening with Black Lives Matter. Yeah, very good book. I do think it's one worth reading. I think it's very good to read. You know, you could read it to middle grade, but I feel that it's one of those books that needs to be accompanied by an adult or the teacher, so that some explanation can be given to put things in its context. And but I think it's a very important issue that children should be aware of, that not everybody, not all children are equal, and not all children are as what's the word, you know, I can't think of the word now that I wanted to say, you know, when they're not privileged but fortunate, that's it, fortunate. Yeah, fortunate, thank you. He's got a thesaurus out behind that camera, you know, that's where it is. So I think you should give that a try. It was shortlisted for the Carnegie Medal, and I'm sure she's got another book out or about to bring another book out, so I can't wait to get that because I think her writing is excellent. So The Ones That Disappeared, Zana Fraillon. So, one extreme to the other, The Great Gatsby. This has been on my classic list of books that I want to read in my lifetime, and it's quite a slim volume, but goodness me, it's very small writing and very packed in. So for those of you that aren't aware, that I didn't know that much about it either, it came out in 1925, and it said it's F. Scott Fitzgerald's classic novel of the American jazz age. It is the story of a fundamentally innocent man drawn to his own destruction through infatuation with a girl called Daisy. And I think part of this, I struggled with this book a little bit. I did finish it. It is quite intriguing, and I did want to know what was happening. It does draw you along. But I think I was expecting it to be different to what it was. I expected, because it's classed as the great American jazz age, I thought it would be more so about life as it was then, and in the deep south, New Orleans, and what it was like to have the jazz era, and what life was like with the music and everything else. And it's not like that really at all. And so I was a bit taken aback, I think, because that's what I was expecting. And sometimes, we don't do ourselves any favour by can't think of that word either.
Judging.
Yes. This is what happens when you've been 13, 14 weeks in lockdown, your brain withers. It's definitely withering as we speak. So I've forgotten even what word he's told me to say now. Prejudge. Prejudge. Okay. The hair's growing though, look. So we shouldn't prejudge books in a way, because we end up spoiling them for ourselves, I think. But anyway, it's more of a characterisation. It's more of a character-driven novel, really. There isn't a lot of plot to it, I don't feel. And it's narrated by Gatsby's neighbour. So we've got a young man who lives next door to Gatsby, and he notices everything that's going on. Gatsby's very flamboyant, he's very rich, although there are people that wonder where he got his riches from. Might not have been entirely legally. And he's always having parties, wild parties, and everybody and the grandmothers turns up at a weekend to, spend his money basically. I bet he doesn't know half of them are. They just turn up and, oh yes, welcome. So there's all these strangers wandering around his house. But that's the lifestyle that he's living. And there's observations going on by his neighbour. And one day this neighbour is called invited to go to one of these parties. Now he's got this cousin called Daisy. And as it transpires, Gatsby... Daisy is Gatsby's first love many, many years ago, and of sorts he tries to win her back. And Daisy's married, and it's a look at their married life, what's happening within that marriage, and yeah, nothing much happens really, I don't think, but it's I think it's nicely written for, well that sounds a bit condescending, I don't mean nicely written, but for a classic it's something that's accessible, shall we say. I feel that the writing style is accessible and easy to follow, and it's written in such a way that you're intrigued. You are intrigued what's happening, what Gatsby's going to do next, and what is it, strange doings going on, strange things happening, and it's not one that you want to DNF, but I think I only really gave it 3 stars. Did I enjoy it? In parts I did. I'm very pleased that I read it, because I've ticked it off my classics list now to read. Classics to read. Yes, I enjoyed it, but I think not expecting anything from it, I may well have rated it a little bit higher, but I was expecting this, this great look at life in the Jazz Age and what all that brought with it. But basically it's a look at Gatsby's life, all the flamboyance, because of his riches, and his neighbour's quite poor, this young man's quite poor, and his observations really of his cousin Daisy and Gatsby. Now, there's probably going to be some classicists out there that say, oh no, well really it means A, B, C and D, and it was looking at A, B, C and D. But for a non-classicist, I felt that it was a little drab in places, and yeah, I'm glad I read it, but I think it's one of those that you have to read it for yourself and make your own assumptions. But don't go into it expecting it to be all music and a real it's a slice of life in that era, but it's not really about the Jazz Age. Does that sort of make sense? Yeah, I think it does. So there we go. This is a nice slim volume. It's a nice edition of it. Trying to look who's published this. Arcturus. This was published by Arcturus, 2018, this edition. So a nice cover, nice little classic, if you just want a short classic to tick off your list. So there we go. There's a couple of recent reads. The ones that disappeared, Zana, Fraillon, and The Great Gatsby, the great F. Scott Fitzgerald. So keep safe, look after yourselves as we're getting into more opening up of normal life. Just take extra care. One day David and I will be filming somewhere different to the house and the garden. So take care everybody. See you next time. Bye for now.